2019 of CHRC. So at this point in time, the recommendation was that the Rural Services Committee was not established. So we have Brett here. If there is any questions, I'm happy to open it up to the floor. I know there'd be quite a
Thanks, Kirsten. I know there's questions. And Brett, you've met anyone, Brett?
No, I haven't met anybody, no.
No, sorry, and welcome, Brett Keys. Yeah, certainly into the hot seat. I'm sure you had an interesting weekend, I know you.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, look, Kirsten, I know there's some discussion amongst councillors, and we'll get to those, so we'll just hear that. Christine, Councillor Roll. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Mayor, when you read through this, and I suppose that as a council they have to pull out the stats on it, but 8% of range services, CRMs, you'll find that rural landholders and rural people around here, which is the majority of the region is rural, they're not interested in reporting barking dogs and crying roosters. So it's more about, for them, it's more about their biosecurity and their environmental protection of their land and all that sort of stuff. What happens from my recollection of rural services meetings, it was a meeting of stakeholders which included DAF, Cherub, which is the NRM group, and other NRM groups, DNRME, AgForce, landholders, council, and anybody else that I might have missed. So there was stakeholders that had an interest in the actual ecology and ongoing sustainability of our region around roads and stock routes, etc. Since this was started, I think that the stock routes have actually been handed over to council. And when you read through the Stock Route Act, it's a little bit concerning as well, because there's really not a great deal of council is, council has to do this and the state government will do this. So I feel that if we had a meeting, it doesn't need to necessarily involve all of the ranger services, but it would be a meeting that would inform everybody around what is happening on our stock routes, on our roads, on the main roads, and on our council roads, as far as pests and weeds and the actual incursion of some pretty horrific weeds that are coming in from outside. And it's just not happening. Nothing's happening about fixing up or maintaining or even trying to mitigate some of these weed incursions. I know that these guys are really busy, but it's not about that. It's about what is sustainable for our region, and I'm horrified to see some of the weeds and things that are coming in on the stock route, especially on the main stock route down between Springshaw and Ralston. It's terrific. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Rolfe. Councillor Nixon.
Yeah, I'd agree with Councillor Rolfe on all those points she raised, but I'd also like to say that going back in the last term of council, Springshaw had a very active rural services meeting. A lot of landholders came into those meetings at a contact with council. They are different issues to what comes up at our community consultation meetings, because they're all rural, they're all based on protecting their environment and their properties, and we had a great following. There was also a very active rural services group in Capella. They used to meet up there, and then we had the one in Emerald here where they all fed into the big one with all the representatives from DAF and all those places. I think they were very worthwhile, and I would really like to see them continue again, because it is an opportunity for the people out on the land to have a voice in council with their concerns on their properties with weeds, all those control. I mean, there's problems with dingoes, there's problems with pigs, there's all types of feral animals out there that need to be controlled, and also the weeds. And I think it's really important that they have that voice.
Councillor Syfer?
Yes, ditto, 100%. These committees are absolutely essential. This is where you'll find out where all the weeds are located, particularly. 12 months ago, my husband rang council 3 times about a Riccia cactus, always going to get a phone call back. We'll get someone to call you back. Never ever got a phone call back. He is now out on the highway spraying the Riccia cactus at our own expense because council has never ever responded to 3 calls. Rural people will not ring up, they'll simply have to go out and do it themselves. So you do need these committees, and I absolutely disagree with that recommendation.
All right,
Through the chair, I was going to say, I used to sit on the Rural Services meeting when I wore a different hat, and I did find it it was a very effective way of proactively planning and collaborating with landholders, with council, with other departments. So it's not about, rather than us being reactive when somebody calls up and says, this is the problem, because usually when our calling up, it's becoming a big problem. You can actually plan, and it was also a really great way of, with that planning, to then also look at what funding was coming up or available, or had those plans, and then target external funding to target or to deal with the pest problems. So, you know, if we're not going to do rural services, I guess what mechanism are we going to use to ensure that we continue to proactively plan for pests?
Good.
So,
And can I just add to Councillor Daniels' comments there, and certainly the other councillors? I suspect that the criteria and I suppose you'd say the philosophy behind how you prepared this is not the same as what the councillors are saying back to you. So I think we've done 2 different things here, but I think what you see here is a definite need for this to happen, and it was certainly not on the basis of the impost on time and obviously commitment of resources and what have you, which I understand you just coming through here. So I think what we're going to do here, there's a solution that's got to be a bit of, will you understand what council want? I guess the person. So.
And with all due respect, Mr. Mayor, these meetings, from what I'm led to believe, were held twice annually. So there is an opportunity for
More regularly than that.
more regularly.
No. Yes, Emerald's from on, Emerald was Bella, better
Quarter, it's French River Colour.
But there is still the opportunity for concerned residents or rural landholders, if there are issues that they're facing, just to call council. And this is an issue that we're
I
having.
haven't got any confidence in council.
I respect your concerns and will happily follow up on your husband's inquiry that's gone unanswered, but we have to take action on inquiries that are received through CRMs, and we've repeatedly received complaints that our staff aren't responding to customer inquiries, and we look into all of them when they're received. And a number of them that we've been receiving of late are that the customer hasn't actually called council, they haven't lodged a CRM, and so they're alleging that our staff aren't calling them back, not just in Ranger Services, but across the board. So when we get these matters, I take them seriously, because I don't like terrible customer service, and I don't think my staff do either. So we do investigate them when they come through, so I'm happy to have a conversation with you, Councillor Syfer, and see when these calls.
The issue's a lot bigger than my husband.
No, I respect.
So let's not concentrate on that issue. Let's get back to the committee and to the whole of the issue. So you're focused in on one little minute part of it. It's a lot bigger than that. Let's get back to the actual problem.
No, I respect that, and what I'm suggesting is that when we do receive calls from the public, whether it's a complaint or whether there's pest management incursion, we act on that. We have a pest management plan, and we have an action plan within that pest management plan about how we're going to address certain pests. So we do have to follow process in terms of what we can allocate our resources to, and when rural services complaints only represent 8%, we do have to focus and commit our attention to all of the complaints that are being received. And yes, sometimes we can't focus 100% of our efforts on one particular issue, but we do have to share the load ground when we only have a certain amount of resources. We have engaged consultants to attend pest management spraying, and we have that allocated in the budget for 2018-19 as well too. So With next month, we've got an update report coming through about friendlies as well too, to document the progress to date on that. So we do take these concerns seriously, so. I hear what you're saying about the effectiveness of the meetings, from when they happened previously, so.
I don't think you've heard it.
No, not listening to it. Go again, Chris.
Sorry, Councillor Gordon-Smith. Councillor Gordon-Smith.
I've had, along with other people in this council, many years in community-based natural resource management, and I've, if I'm being completely honest, I think it's important that we do have a platform where we have an opportunity to engage with the community-based natural resource management groups, as well as DERM, DAC, whatever they are, AgForce. But in all honesty, the model that we used for rural services before, I do not believe was sustainable or overly successful. And while I did go to those meetings as well, and they were hit and miss with attendance, and the satellite groups you'd have, and I thought we even had one in Blackwater, they often weren't well attended. Then we'd have the overarching one, you'd get the same people that went to the satellite ones coming to the overarching ones, and it was time consuming. I think it is really important that we have that opportunity now, because the funding environment for pests, whether it be plants or animals, is more diminished. But there's still important issues around the environment and waterways and all those things that we used to do in community-based natural resource management. But the best way to get great outcomes is with collaboration. So I'm not sure what happens now. And I know the staff do have conversations with some of those agencies, but it would be still great if we could have somewhere where we do pull people together, whether it's representative landholders, AgForce, some of the departments, council, Fitzroy Basin Association, share it, because it is a typical environment now to access funding, whether it be state or federal government funding. So we've got to work smarter, we've got to work together, and I don't know that there is any mechanism now that actually allows that conversation to happen where we can plan a bit strategically. So I think I'd hate to see us adopt the same model that we had before, because to be honest, I don't think it was overly successful. It was a bit of duplication, but I still think it's important that we look at, or maybe you can tell us if that happens now, but it'd be good maybe to just have a look at that.
Certainly, and so through the Mayor, the collaboration does happen ongoing throughout the year with pest management with state agencies, such as the November success that we had with the Hymenacne there, and other such pests within the region. So collaboration is definitely happening, and while I respect we're not officially holding a meeting where we're inviting landholders to come together and share their concerns, collaboration is happening. But if that's something that council wants to run, that's what the recommendation in this report is based on, us not supporting it as a council run meeting. So there was to be a committee formed similar to other committees that we have. We can send along rangers and they can attend them. But from the information that we have based on previous meetings that were held, they were poorly attended. They were only held a couple of times a year. So you weren't actually getting across all of the issues because they weren't meeting on a regular enough basis. So then that's when you rely on things such as the community reference groups, the bulletins and other mechanisms to communicate certain rural issues.
And to be fair, organisations like Fitzroy Basin Association and Cherub took up a lot of slack and did a lot of the work around, education awareness and community engagement, whereas, now, they just don't have the resources to do all of that.
Councillor Roth, I'll get to you, and I've got, Jason's just drafted up a bit of a change to that recommendation that might sort this out and go here.
Okay, no, well, I reckon now, nobody actually asked me, when I said, can we consider renewing the rural services meeting, my thoughts were actually around the only 1 or 2 meetings a year that actually got all the stakeholders together, as I mentioned before. It wasn't a resurgent of the ones in Capella and the ones in Springshaw. All I wanted to do was have some sort of collaboration between all the stakeholders around the country that have something to do with weeds and pest management. So for me, let that resolution go through, and we'll just do it through our our natural resource management groups, and we might invite council to come along too.
Well, just have a listen
No,
to
that's-
this variation.
No, I think
It's needed.
Just, all right.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. We're obviously sitting here at cross purposes, Council, in the discussion that we're having. The report that you've asked for and the report we've provided are providing different answers. I would suggest that, a recommendation that seeks to bring forward a framework might be the best way of seeking to then identify both the regional and sub-regional considerations that need to go into such a framework. So I've drafted a rough resolution that Central Highlands Regional Council officers provided a further report to establishing the Rural Services Committee meeting framework with an approach for regional and sub-regional considerations. So we'll bring a report back that tries to identify what framework would best suit the ability to collaborate with the stakeholder groups, as well as addressing the diversity that the sub-regional groups might bring to the table, so that we can try and seek to answer the question that you asked, Councillor Rolfe, but also to do that in an efficient manner, whether that's through multiple meetings a year, meetings across each of the different sub-regions or catchments. We can put those options together in a paper that would provide for a stronger governance framework around getting work done, but also understanding what the community expectations are.
And would that would feed into the community-based resource management structures that are already existing?
Yeah, the community, through our community consultations, to have, instead of, so that through our community consultation, you get somebody, a landholder representation and others, to come to a central point and have a meeting. Now, I'm not asking for everybody to drop tools and go to another meeting. All I'm asking for is some sort of way forward that we can actually say that Cherub, if they can, they're the ones that get funding to do spraying weeds and things, to say, well, this is what we're on about. A couple of times a year, that's all we need. But we are not getting anything done at the moment. So it just needs something to happen.
What's also useful, what was useful with those groups too, was a bit of a sounding board for state government policy. Whether it be, stock rat management or, the bill that came before. So it was pretty handy to sort of, make sure that, check the pulse of different agencies around thinking with some of the things that were sitting in the agricultural or environmental realm. So yeah, it's, I'm confident that at an officer level that a lot of that's happening, but it would be great to understand if there was a mechanism to even broaden out what you do now, just to include, a bit broader representative group, and I wouldn't be in favour of, like Councillor was saying, re-establishing what we had before, but just something new.
just as long as, I'm sure it's already been said, but that platform to allow multiple stakeholders to collaborate and share information and work out how to address issues, rather than, I hate the thought of us hearing about something going on that's not on our land, and then not going any further, whereas it could be with collaboration, and I can think of a specific situation with collaboration, maybe there was a way of targeting it or getting some community information out about landholders targeting that issue.
Absolutely.
So is that resolution going to get us back a solution to this, so that we can actually have some input and bearing in mind I suppose you'd say that grassroots input that then plugs in with the broader.
Yeah. See, we had, last year there was a commitment between Cherub and Council for funding and stuff, and it didn't happen. See, there was no meeting, there was no collaboration, and nobody on both sides sort of went, oh, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Well, this has got to happen, because it's going to be too late soon.
Well, years ago, Peak Downs, it had its own very, very successful rural services group.
Yes.
And post-amalgamation, it became the Central Highlands Pest Management Group, and it was hugely successful. So one group, and it just met, you know, occasionally throughout the year, but it was very successful in getting quite a bit of funding for this region for pest management. And yeah, of all the groups in Queensland, it seemed to jag enormous amount of money. And now and the interesting thing going forward will be, under the new natural resource management delivery model, it's going to be more important than ever that groups work together collaboratively, because no longer are groups like CHIRP and FBA the traditional delivery models for funding. It's open slather. So there might be some other opportunities for us to use other vehicles that are known locally to actually work on projects collaboratively together to access funding for projects in this region. So we just have to, I think it's more important than ever that we have that.
Right, so there's been a little bit of, sorry,
What part of that shouldn't be in there, is it? So what is your resolution?
No, that was the original one.
Okay, yeah, so that's not
The
there.
second one is
The second one.
replacement, if people are happy with that.
Yeah, can I just say before, look, the total focus on what information you get back through your customer service request thing, that's useless, because people will not ring up and complain. The majority of people will not ring up and complain.
I beg to differ, I'm sorry, but I need to say something, I haven't had a chance to speak yet. I think the focus is obviously on your rural lands and the fact that the weeds aren't being sprayed and there's concerns on land and all the rest of it. But I think you're losing sight of the fact also that there's other issues that we have to deal with. And you can't let go of, you can't lose sight of that fact. We're limited in the number of people that we have to be able to address the problems.
We haven't lost sight of that.
No, but the focus is really on that rural land, and the amount of jobs that we have to go out and deal with is a significant factor of that. And we want to be able to help the people.
Well,
on the
then
land.
maybe it's a staffing issue we've got here. Maybe that's what the issue is. You
Then we
shouldn't
don't
say
have staff,
that
yeah.
you can't do it. You should say we need more staff to do it.
Well, I think before we get into I guess a little bit crossways with purpose here, the reality is, I think the framework and a deliberation about what we want to actually achieve will then determine just how you're going to identify that stuff, or in fact how you're going to source the solutions to the problems we actually think we have. So I think that's the issue. Sorry.
And further to that, Mr. Mayor, is that motion there, the second one, it's actually asking to go and bring us back another report.
Another report.
And I'm just wary that it'll come back and we'll offer up I think we need to have a sit down and work out what stakeholders you want, what it is you actually truly are looking for. Bring a recommendation back of our own, and then get the final points worked out and cross the T's and dot the I's and get the governance right behind that. But we have all got, from what I heard here so far, we all have in mind the stakeholders that are required to be a part of this, and also the punters that we've got in mind that want to be involved. I don't know whether we need to be sketching everyone onto another report to come back to us. I think we need to get together very briefly, and I don't think it'll take very long, and work out what it is that we want, so that you guys aren't going off in a direction. And I don't know whether I'm out of line there, but
Well, I think you know that this resolution, I think, would be inviting obviously councillors to have an input into that framework, and I think it should be a report that says that that's been done. And I hear what you're saying in terms of, is that just a space between now and when the report comes back? I think the invitation is there to actually, to contribute to that. So the framework's not going to come from officers in here, it's going to come from the feedback and active participation here. If you want words to make sure that happens, change them, but I mean, the reality is it's got to be, it would be a waste of time if you're just going to bring it back here with another report, and I don't think that was the intent. I think it's about between the rest of the council, adopting something like that, that you have an active participation in making sure that's what's the outcomes that we're looking for. And then I suppose it raises the question about then as an organisation, are we capable of delivering that, or how are we going to deliver it? So is that the words that you need to put in there?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the intent of the report was to provide the mechanism to make the decision. I agree with what you said, Councillor McIntyre. We need to have an open workshop around how that might come together. It's not about bringing one here, as we prepared earlier, fresh to the council cold, but you can't make a decision without a recommendation in the report.
You probably should
coming
just come to
forward.
strategy and we just have a yarn about it, because it'd be great to understand what happens now. And what what we'd like to probably see happen. Maybe it's just a bit of marrying both up, who knows, but.
And through you, Mr Mayor, with that recommendation, we can set aside some time to liaise with all of you individually or together to say what it is that you actually want from this group, who you want involved, and what sort of collaboration. So whether or not we can get you all in the same room at the same time, or whether it's just through small group meetings and we circulate that information before bringing a report back with the framework, the draft framework for this, at least to get you engaged in that side of the process before bringing a report back for a resolution or to a strategy session to know that.
So, councillors, is this resolution going to get clear or not?
I think taking Councillor McIntyre's point, I think you should be looking at bringing it back to that strategy meeting and talking about maybe the strategy meeting of the August 28th, whenever our next one is, and have it all as a proposal back to us then after that consultation. So I'd like to see us include in there that we have that this be the report framework be presented at the August strategy briefing forum, I think it's on the 28th, and following consultation with the rural councils in regards to framework parameters or framework guidelines. So I think if we just bring it back to the strategy meeting, Councillor McIntyre, what you're saying is we should have a yarn about it then, shouldn't we? Council around the table. Is that going to be too long or too far away?
I think that's a realistic time frame in terms of consulting before, because the agenda closes today, but
Well, that's
the
the
next
next strategy meeting, so that's
Can't get any closer.
No, exactly. We'll be here.
Can't even hold it.
How's that read?
That way we can
Given lots of opportunities there.
Yeah,
So you remove the first part of it, no?
Yes,
yeah, that's what got me before.
Okay, I'll move that.
yeah. So councillor Walsh happy to move that. Councillor Riddle can't have it seconded. There's a new word.
Yeah.
Right, all in favour? Yes.
Sorry. Had my fingers crossed.
So you against it?
Thank you, Brett, and thank you very much for your on the weekend, mate. It's obviously a significant incident. Well done. Yeah,
Thanks, Brett.
right, councillors, I think Kirsten might stay on the hot seat to do the introduction here. The Emerald Council Office Executive Area Repair and Refurbishment. Jared Bryant is coming down. Thank you, Jared. Thanks, Kirsten.
Wonderful. Through you, Mr Mayor, so this report is to provide council with information on the outcome of the Emerald Council Office Executive Area Refurbishment Project, which has finished, and as I'm sure all of you are enjoying the space that it has to offer. So I'll hand over to Jared, who will go through the details of the project and some of the key highlights.
Thank you. Good afternoon, councillors. The report was requested, as I understand, in order to give a breakdown of the amount of local content that was engaged through delivering the project, as well as to provide a bit of an overview of the final outcome. So, as noted in the report, the final outcome in terms of local content was around 90%, 49 or almost 50% of that being from Emerald businesses, with the other 40-odd% being through Central Queensland businesses. In terms of the actual spend on the project, the initially endorsed budget being around $336,000. We've gone a little bit over budget and coming in over by $13,000. So throughout the project, we've reiterated the items that were delivered as a result of the project, and what works additionally needed to occur as a part of variations, predominantly through items that were required under some under the insurance component, and some that were additional items that were discovered as a result of some existing damage within the facility. So a number of those works items unfortunately weren't able to be covered as a result of the insurance component due to them being pre-existing. We've also provided some detail in relation to the reuse of furniture as a result of the renovation, so where those items have been repurposed. Provided some detail in relation to a breakdown of the contractors used for the local components, the Central Queensland components, and down into the further levels of detail. And that sort of is predominantly what's in the report, and happy to take any questions as a result.
Councillors, questions?
So Gerard, it's fixed up all the ceiling problems and internal wall problems that we have.
That's correct, Councillor.
Thank you. I think that's probably the main thing, isn't it?
Obviously, given they were some pre-existing issues, we did have to delve a little bit deeper there than we would have liked, but ultimately, yes, those items have been fixed. We had to go a little bit further to obviously boost the technology components or provide that, I guess, ability to come back in the future if we have the desire and the funds in order to provide additional works, but ultimately the product has been finished, and we've addressed those issues.
So on the day that we went down and had a look at it when it was first finished, we'd had rain just prior to that, and the roof still leaked. Has that since been fixed again?
My understanding is that any existing conditions were fixed. I'm more than happy to go back to my staff and just double check on that. I'm not aware of that particular visit or
That's true, isn't that true?
It was actually the screw holes in the roof from the solar panel installation, so one of those is leaking.
Right.
And I think they were there within an hour or so and fixed it up, so.
Okay, as long as that's been.
Yeah.
Because we were here the day that.
No, well, that's exactly what happened. Obviously, it's the first time it's rained, and it hasn't rained since, unfortunately, but it was the screw holes in the what do they call it, the roof deck, obviously from the installation of the solar panels, which it hadn't rained since they were installed, so that was the first chance, I suppose, to test the veracity.
Okay, thank you very much.
Jared, all the drainage issues on the roof have been fixed, as in pigeons, no problems with the pigeons up there anymore?
I'm not aware of the extent of issues with pigeons up there. I know we've had some issues in relation to birds and so forth, so we do have a few plastic owls and things like that up there to try and discourage them. I don't know how successful they have been, but yeah, I'm not overly familiar with the issues in terms of birds and what they're causing up there.
No, and probably if I could just say one thing, I guess, in terms of the project itself. If this opportunity comes up again in relation to a project similar to this, I think probably a little more in terms of consultation would be probably a lesson learnt. There's 8 of us on the side of the council, and I'm pretty sure that not one of us requested office works to actually take place, and I know we're actually one of the primary beneficiaries of the project itself, but it did experience quite a bit of budget creep. It started off being this much and then it was that much, and I guess none of us are really comfortable with the cost of the project, and I think
Need for options of maintenance.
so I think the lesson is, I guess, bring people along on the journey, and here we are at the end trying to understand the project, and it is lovely. The space is fantastic, but I guess that's probably the thing that I've learned about this, is that it would be nice to have been part of the journey up front rather than at the end.
Councillor, any other questions? Well, there's a recommendation here that Central Hospital Region Council receive the report noting the volume of local content achieved through the Blue project and the project variations that occurred. Someone have to move that?
It's a resolution.
It is, the recommendation there on page 19. Happy to move that, Councillor Robb, seconded, Councillor Brindlecombe. All in favour? Against? Thank you. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Kirsten. All right, Council Corporate Services, Operational Plan 2018-2019. Mr. Acting CEO, that's
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'll talk to this report. I'm happy for Mary to come down to support in that delivery, particularly around any of the detail that councils might want to follow up. The operational plan was adopted in June in advance of the budget, and there's been an opportunity for us to tighten that document up, include the budget which is approved to support the delivery of that operational plan, and also provide a bit more context as well as address issues relating to the key performance indicators and those issues sought to be changed by council as feedback at the time of the adoption of that operational plan. Those amendments have been pushed through in full, provided into the documentation. It's provided back to council for adoption in a more complete form, including the budget that's going to be used to resource that operational plan, and recognising the key strategic risks to the organisation in the delivery of the operational plan for 2018-19. Mary, is there anything to add, any level of detail that you wanted to bring forward?
I think it's basically a lot of the changes that we've captured with this amendment were discussed on the day, so I think if there's any questions from anyone on the new one in relation to any of them, happy to take any questions you may have on that.
So maybe these are done every 6 months? Or every 12 months? Is it done every 6 months or 12 months?
The annual plans done every 12 months, so they're normally adopted in line with the budget by June 30th, and then it's reviewed quarterly.
Quarterly?
Yeah.
So if we establish another committee, we can stick it in there somewhere.
Yeah.
We're talking about the community at the heart of the advocacy strategy and maintaining accessible community services. Yeah. Okay. Just don't read this trailer. I'll read the corporate plan.
On page 45, 4.2.1. Oh, have a guess what this is about. Continue to partner with key stakeholders to develop pest management control across the region.
Well, that's good.
I'm sorry.
We put that in the corporate plan.
Don't you?
Who are the stakeholders?
That is working with the key agencies that we've just talked about, Councillor Robb.
That's exactly right, and I've got a big circle around this, Jason.
So previously that was more specific in listing key stakeholders, but we did refine it back just to be key stakeholders, just in case we missed anyone off the list or someone else became a stakeholder over the course of the year.
Also, I think through the chair, on the quarterly update, a list of the actual stakeholders that have been engaged with will be provided as part of the quarterly update, so it'll be quite clear who has been consulted in each quarter, and then I guess the opportunity to tweak that for the following quarter directed to the council.
Well, this is what, there's a disconnect. Anyway, my other question was about that, the target, and just, is that you're saying that it's 80% done now? Or is it?
80% to do.
80% to do, or?
So the target is that 80% of the pest management initiatives will be implemented across the region.
In 12 months?
Yes.
If you've only got one, should be right.
You've got to turn up the high.
See, that goes back to under strong diverse communities. Under page 32 of 101, 1.1.1, item 3, facilitate interagency networks to promote collaboration and understanding of agencies to build resilience within the region. Lead item was 18 as their criteria there to talk with there. I don't know if that is one of the same or.
Through the chair, my understanding is in relation to that particular item, the interagencies, they're specifically community-related interagencies, mainly held in Emerald and Blackwater in with Anglicare, those types of interagencies. And they normally have a certain reviews they deliver every 3 months or thereabouts, so it's not the opportunity could be there to affect some of my understanding is they're more community social aspects that those meetings are targeting. Happy to confirm and work with Kirsten and Suzanne to clarify if there can be some junction between both those targets.
If you go to page 48, advocate for improved services and infrastructure, establishment of periodic meetings with state and federal members. Lead officer is the GM for communities, and my little note here says, is this really the role of the GM? If there's an opportunity, surely councillors don't have to fit in with an established meeting, something or other.
My understanding through the chair was that part of the ELT discussions and workings is that each ELT member have been assigned specific areas, and that is one area in particular that has been assigned to that general manager. NC is taking the lead. I think the CEO's advocacy role is also in there under section 3. But happy for the acting CEO to do that.
Yeah, I'm happy for the CEO to be in there.
Yes, I think that's the role of the CEO, not GM. Very much so. In collaboration with councillors.
Thanks, Mary, I don't have any more circles.
You've done well then, Mary.
Hang on.
Right, I have.
Page 54.
Sorry?
And
Highlighted section.
and the highlighted section is,
Yes, what's that?
I didn't do that by mistake.
No, that's where I
What
put
is,
in,
what is it for?
that's where I put in to mention the councillors,
Oh, rightio, thank you.
because the councillors are not mentioned in the whole
Yeah.
article, except I asked that be put in, and I would have asked for about 20 different things and I've forgotten what I asked for. That was the only one that came.
So the highlight obviously just didn't make, it is removed in the later version, so it's just a administrative error policy.
Any other queries, questions, councillors? So the recommendation is that we re-adopt that annual operational plan. That's obviously with those changes. Is that appropriate?
With the changes that have been provided today. Yep.
So, Councillor Roth, that issue you raised with that, the key stakeholders, you were happy enough for that to stay there, and obviously the new framework.
Yeah, well,
We'll probably catch up.
it's in the operational
It'll-
plan,
It wasn't happening.
it wasn't something, so let's,
Well, I suspect that to a certain extent there is some stakeholder engagement, obviously through your interaction with other agencies.
There's definitely stakeholder collaboration, so
Yes.
yeah.
And the proposal today would sort of strengthen that. Yes.
So, in
All right.
relation to the strategic risks element of that, report. Is this the first time that we've actually measured it like that? Well, that's on page 58 of the agenda. So you know how you've got current and target? Is this like starting from now?
Yes.
So how do we measure on that graph, like how, if we've achieved it next time round?
Sure.
I'll answer that, Mary, if you like, through you, Mr Mayor. This piece of work was done probably a few months back through the audit committee. We've refreshed the strategic risk register into these 6 risks. And I think as you've identified, we're trying to take it from the blue box position to the blue star position. That will be measured by the actions that we take during the year. So if you look at those key management actions and the dates attached to them, the completion of those pieces of work then brings us back to re-evaluate against that risk matrix table that's provided there. So essentially, in most instances, we'll be able to mitigate the consequences and not necessarily the likelihood. So we'll try and move the blue box further to the left, if that makes sense. And where possible, take things out of the orange and red shaded spaces of that risk table as it's articulated there. Those actions will be reported back through the audit committee and then back into council on their achievement in the first instance, and can be provided to the leadership and governance on one of the other standing committees if council so wishes one.
Because it would be good to, over time, monitor our progress.
Yep.
So I hate to lose sight of where we were and where we end up.
Yep.
Over a period of time. So it'd be good if that could be captured and retained.
Yep.
Somehow in those.
And with the frequency of the quarterly reporting that Mary referenced before, we can provide feedback in relation to the progress of the strategic risks inside the operational plan, quarterly report feedback.
I'm not saying any more, Mary.
Any other questions? Right. Any other questions, Councillor?
No, it wasn't a question, Mayor, but the, if you look at the enabling culture and communication, I don't know, that risk part of the register, 58. So the number 2 there, the adoption of annual operational plan and commitment to implementation and monitoring. So the actual due date was June 18, but if you did it on a, I'm not saying you have to, but in the audit committee, if we do it on a, what do you call them, lights system, it would have been orange, wouldn't it? Because we haven't done it. So now it's to be green because it'll be.
Yeah, there's a timing difference there, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So there's just a timing difference, and that's the sort of update that you get.
Well, I can certainly commend Mary, Captain CEO, for obviously her hand, I guess, in what was a very unwieldy document in 2016 into this tighter, more focused plan that we see in front of us, and I thank Councillor certainly for the diligence of tuning those up slightly, but it's certainly a much more readable, consumable and measurable operational plan than I think what you inherited, Mary, so you to be commended for that work, and others with you obviously, so thank you, Jason, and thank you, Mary. Councillors, there is a resolution there that we re-adopt that annual operational plan for the 2019 financial year with changes as amended. Is someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Nixon, seconded by Councillor Robb. Right, that's how it shall read. All in favour? Against? Thank you. Thank you very much, Mary.
So we'll see that document back quarterly with some sort of traffic light system. So yes, we can measure.
All right, councillors, page 61. the monthly financial report.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Councillors, you have before you what we would call the interim results for the period ending 30 June 2018. Obviously, we're in the preparation of the annual financial statements, and a number of other transactions happen in order for us to finalise the annual financial statements. So the word interim results there is shown to reflect the position as of the preparation of this report, which is likely to change a little bit before we finalise the year-end financial statements. Of note, and due to issues related to timing, you can see there that the operating result for the year has ended in a positive position with an operating surplus of just over $3 million shown in relation to our day-to-day position, if you like, and that's reflected in the statement of comprehensive income on page 72 as well, with a greater level of detail underneath that. I'll ask Wayne to talk to the operating revenue and expense detail in relation to what makes up that $3.1 million surplus position associated with the timing of the FAGS grant from 2018-19, predominantly being one of the impacts. The other point of note from my own perspective would be the rate arrears reduction from what was 8.22% to 6.88% throughout the year, given the ongoing collection, sale of land processes and other activities that we've been undertaking to tidy up long unpaid rates, and we'll continue to work diligently in that space, dealing with regular repayment plans from ratepayers. The capital works final position again is yet to be finalised, given the year-end accruals for accounts that are still yet to be finalised. At budget review 3, we had forecast a $65.3 million delivery. The totals to date are $51.6 million, and with the accruals still to be finalised, I'm not sure if Wayne's in a position to provide an update for that information. The other two comments I'll make before I ask Wayne to talk to detail relate to attachments 2 and 3 on pages 73 and 74. The interim statement of financial position, which is essentially the balance, the value of our community, has increased from 1.467 to 1.482 billion dollars in terms of the value of the entity. And then you'll notice that there's a significant difference in the estimated year-end position for cash flow. Obviously, the underperformance of the capital program has contributed significantly to that. So you can see that there's $137 million in the bank, as distinct from that forecast position of $114 million. So a significant variance in cash to be held there. Wayne, can I get you to talk to the detail of the operating statement and any other comments, and then we're happy to answer questions, councillors.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, councillors. As the acting CEO has indicated, there's still very much an interim position. Since the report was written, there's been around about $1.2 million shaved off that 3.1 million surplus. It's now sitting at around about 1.9. There's still a number of adjustments to go. Main reason for that is that there's been a number of invoices that have come through in since the 30th of June and July that relate to activities undertaken prior to the 30th of June, and so they've been accrued backwards into last financial year. That's unfortunately still ongoing because there's more and more invoices coming through. So minor amounts will just draw a line eventually and stop, and hopefully that'll be done sort of by Wednesday, Thursday this week, and so we'll finalise the accruals by the end of the week. But I mean, and there's still then adjustments in relation to the leave provisions, because the net movement in long service leave for the total organisation, annual leave, and the recognition of sick leave for the first time will impact on the final result as well. So there'll be adjustments to those elements. The pleasing thing is that in general terms, the wages budget came in, rounded out online. The figure that's shown there is a $4,000 variance. It's now $49,000 in total, so it's not significant. But, so that's pleasing to note. The materials and services, or goods and services, is still coming in under budget. As I said, if there's further accruals for the end of the year, that will change. The biggest variation there, as was indicated, is the receipt of financial assistance grant upfront, or half of the 18-19 allocation upfront. That's 4.675 million. So that's a fairly significant impact on the bottom line. So, with the capital works, with the further accruals, that's now sitting around 54 million. So there'll still a review of those uncompleted projects and looking at adjustments as far as carryovers as part of the first budget review. Happy. And sorry, then we'll finalise reserve transfers and everything else. We'll bring back a full variance analysis and final position on all the reserves as well. Happy to take any questions.
Just through the mayor, just with your deposits, you've got fixed term deposits at 2 banks. Why are we putting it in banks and QTCC? Any reason?
In general terms, the QTC cash fund gives sufficiently good returns as well as the capital guarantee. So we don't need to look at sort of any fixed term arrangements with them because we get sufficient return through the cash fund, and then we sort of spread it around with the other agencies to ensure diversity in the portfolio. But one of the things that I've flagged is that we review some of the terms and the decisions around where the money is invested to ensure that we're optimising our opportunities there.
Because we borrow all from QTC, don't we?
Yes.
And I suppose at a local level, Councillor Nixon, we've chosen to stay with those financial institutions that have committed to stay in the region as well. So those 2 major banks, one of which is our provider, is part of the reason that we've chosen to keep some of those funds locally. That's important for those institutions to have money flowing through their books as well. So there is an opportunity for council, I suppose, to declare its corporate social responsibility to keep its money inside its community and through its local banking institutions.
So, yeah, okay. And the other thing, it's probably more of a comment than anything. We hear how like the economy is growing and things like that, and yet we have a look at the overdue rates. Like it seems to be showing up that the non-principal places of residence, there can't be a huge take-up of people wanting rental properties. Am I just reading that incorrectly, or is that?
No, through you, Mr. Mayor, I think that's a reflection of the market as it sits at the moment. So as we start to see the number of rentals availability declining, then we should start to see people's ability to generate.
It hasn't gone gangbusters yet.
No, we're not seeing it flow through at this point in time, although there's a number of anecdotal stories of rent increases flowing through in the community. We're not seeing that reflected in any changes to repayments from non-owner occupiers.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. And just with the rural, I think that we've really got a good collection from rural, insofar as a lot of those people are starting to be badly affected by drought. So we're very lucky to make sure that that's there. So yeah, that could get worse. But yeah, and as you say, it has gone down, but not it's still 5.8, and that's not good.
No, ideally, and Wayne could comment on this, somewhere around 2%, but I figured that we could hold.
Through the SCARB, always worked on a basis of 3% is a good benchmark. Anything better than that is sort of green, but 3% is generally accepted across the industry, and that's from my experience in 2 states as well.
Yeah.
Right, Councillor, any other questions?
Just in regards to the chair, the fag stuff that came in that you notified us of a couple of weeks ago, but on top of water, we've also brought our water forward. What effect will that have leading into Q1? When we look at the end of the first quarter, when that money actually does come in, because you projected that, where does that leave us down the track?
Do you want to lead up on that?
The decision to split the water off from the main rates will sort of reduce the amount that we receive in that August-September period a little, but then it will sort of spread the cash flow more evenly across the year. It will impact marginally in the first year probably, but then once it becomes established pattern, it shouldn't be a big impact. The upfront payment of the financial assistance grant, what that means is that we've got that money in the bank earning interest from day one, rather than normally we receive a quarter of that in sort of August, October, February and May. So the fact that we've got half of that up front means that we've got that money in the bank already earning interest. So that should defray some of those additional costs that we would otherwise. One of the things that associated with the review of the investments and the strategies to actually do a cash flow forecast for the year, just waiting on some information about the capital works delivery. So I can allocate that and so we could look at the potential impact of the overall position on council.
So that money's coming, just so I've got it clear, it's coming to this year, you've recognised it into this year?
Yes.
You won't be carrying it over or forward. So when we actually spend the money, are we ready for that?
So to break down what Wayne said, Betsy gave us the money early. We'll earn interest on having that money in the bank earlier than we might have got. That interest should offset what we forego in not rating for the water in the normal patterns that we would have rated. So we think that in year one that will be line ball because of the impact of the prepayment, if that makes sense.
I'm happy with it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, councillors, there's a recommendation that we receive that monthly report on an interim basis for the period into 30 June. Is someone happy to move it? Moved by Councillor Brendan, seconded by Councillor Roll. All in favour? Yes. Thank you. Wayne, thank you. All right, councillors, page 76, and no doubt councillors have seen some emails that you're applying today, so Gerard has benefit of those now, so he can incorporate those into his discussion. So I'll hand it over to you, Gerard.
Thank you, Chair and councillors. I'll quickly, quite a lengthy report, I'll try and distill the key points out of it. First things first, we started the design of this intersection, and one of the impacts was that the current bus design, which is indicated on figure 1 of the report, is being impacted on the upgrade of the intersection. The bulk of the widenings to the south, there's requirements to have a runoff area for road trains that get caught when the signals come down to turn out into, etc. So essentially, part of the design was missing. The existing stop is not feasible. We dutifully went and thought, great idea, put it on the south side of the railway line, where A is in figure 1. We all thought it's a great idea. I think the community picked up on it. The problem is, when we engaged with Knights Bus Transport and Translink, they seem 100% dead set against it. They say the risks of crossing the railway line, they say the risk of being caught on the southern side of the railway line when they're running a tight schedule. So essentially they pushed back on that one. So that's when we started looking at other options and came up with the ES road as a preferable alternative. Just to give you an idea, the high level and figure 2 shows you that there are on the Cap Highway on this route P814, there's a voluntary stop 4 k's to the west, and the Duck Pond stop 8 kilometers to the east. So within reason, Yalma obviously is deserving of having a stop. Those other stops are obviously on the highway, so that's probably one of the reasons why the Translink and the bus company is pushing to keep it on the highway and not across the railway line. I'm looking at further, the option C further west of the existing stop has been tagged as a potential. Question is just how far further west? If we have issues within the intersection, that means we have to take it over the crest and round the bend, and we vegetate it further, much closer to the voluntary stop down the road. We might, it might end up being the voluntary stop versus another stop further west. Giving you context there. Then we went into consultation. In the interim, we've had a couple of exchanges with a couple of property owners, including the ones that may have sent emails in. But other than that, we've had this engagement out since February, and I do agree we did not put a deadline on the Survey Monkey. It's actually still open. I can state that the last submission we had was in May. It was considered. 2 weeks ago, there had been no further submissions, so we worked off that. I'm happy broadly to go back to all these property owners and say, if you haven't done a submission, do it, to get real numbers, not just one email constituting agreement or disagreement. But basically, yes, in failing, we probably could have closed the survey at some point in time, but it is still out there and open. We sent correspondence to 118 properties within the catchment as shown on figure 3. It's a massive catchment. On that plot, or on that figure, we'll show you, you can see the respondents that we could identify. Within those 15 responses, there were, the petitioners had 2 responses, so we counted that as 1, essentially giving the same result, so we have to acknowledge that. But you can see there's a even split of people for and against Bohemians Road and are returning it on the Cap Highway, both on Bohemians Road as well south of the railway line. So essentially we have to be cognizant that this group in the email only represent people on the southern side of the railway line and not people on the northern side or on Bohemians Road or on the Cap Highway itself. So in terms of a numbers game, we have to look at the merits of all these options, the safety concerns raised, and where we go next. My recommendation at this stage is I'll modify my resolution to allow further engagement and deal with the community, especially these ones, that's called a petition together, to deal with them and contact them and work through the issues. I'm happy to change that resolution to read that we'll temporarily relocate the Yellowboard school bus stop to Bohemians Road for the duration of all the construction works being undertaken on Bonnie Doon Road and Cap Highway intersections as a starter, because we cannot have the bus stop there while construction is underway in any case.
So the cycle starts.
So when you sent out correspondence, that was to 118 properties, you actually wrote a letter to them?
We wrote them a letter, gave them a link to Survey Monkey and said the options.
So they had to respond back to Survey Monkey?
Through Survey Monkey, they had to respond back.
Yeah, see, I don't believe everyone would have gone in and responded back to Survey Monkey.
Well, the stats is there, we only had 15 responses.
And with no deadline, like I'm having it open-ended, it's probably not.
True, agreed, but doesn't, in my mind, being open since February, saying we didn't have a chance to respond is probably not a good answer. I'm happy to leave it open and go back to these people.
Well, there's no motivation to respond in a timely way, and there's no deadline in the letter.
But I would check the letter. Unfortunately, I didn't check the letter.
Well, unfortunately, some people say they didn't get the letter, so I mean, I'm not sure you have 10 respondents or dots on the map. So to me, it's not enough feedback for me to be comfortable with the fact that there's overwhelming community support for one or the other.
It is a split.
Yeah,
there's split support, and as I said, I want to clearly articulate here that there are residents and people on the northern side and on Bohemians Road. So we just have to be clear as a council that the mere fact that all these people on the southern side of the railway line does not mean the majority of the users of it. I'm happy to continue engaging and see where it goes, but in terms of the technicalities of it, not the consultation part of it, the technicalities of it is that the reality of getting it on the southern side of the railway line could result, if they persist and we support them, would be that the bus company in Crosslinks said, well, we just cancel that stop, and then they have to drive to the duck pond or the laboratory stop. And that's not a good outcome for the community as well, so we'll have to manage that.
Yeah, I think you just need to engage with this crowd a little
I'm
bit
happy
more
to.
face-to-face engagement rather than relying on a survey. I don't know, it just seems to become the trend lately that everything's done on a survey.
No, I agree, and so I will go back.
And I think, do we understand where the majority of the kids in that catchment come from? Are they on one side of the crossing or the other? Or, you know, at the end of the day, the safety of the children is number one, not the convenience of a bus company or, you know, I think it comes down to safety of children and then getting on and off the bus in a safe environment.
I will try and get the stats on the kids, but the critical thing here is also to understand that the movements they're describing as unsafe on the southern side exist for the people moving from the northern side.
That's right, that's what I'm saying.
There's no,
understand.
selfishly, their safety is now being articulated by saying we don't want to make the northern movement because it's unsafe, but the answer is currently the
Gerard, my question was, I don't know how many children are on the northern side. There might only be two. So, if, you know, and trends change over time too. At the moment, we're looking at what children currently engage the service. We don't know what will happen in the future. But if we're inconveniencing a lot of families, making them, for argument's sake, if the majority of the children on that bus are in the south and we're making them go to the north, that says that we're putting more children at risk than we need to. But if the majority are in the north, I don't know. You know, it's about compromise, and it sounds to me like they're happy where the bus is now. No one seems to have any issue with where it is now, but what you're saying is you can't stay there.
That's where we're going, and we'll get details on the.
Can you go back there?
Yeah, after the construction.
With great concern in the fact that effectively we're putting them where road going to pull off when the and the dilemma we have is the road train movement's going to increase. I wouldn't say exponentially, but as soon as we get road trains movements wrapping up with GrainCorp and the likes, plus the expansion, it's just going to become untenable and more dangerous actually to have them located there. So the safety concerns we have about that locality and the restriction that it is a truck runoff area is mixing that in does not sit well. Personally, I still believe the southern side of the railway line is the absolute perfect spot and suits these people, but we will have to go back and we'll work through all those issues again. And we have to be cognizant in that stretch that there are people on the TAP highway which would probably argue we don't really want to drive to the southern side of the railway line. We want to stay on the highway. So it looks like it made quite a significant spread of kids to the top of the unions to the west. I'll try and see if we can find out. I don't know how often
it would be good to understand. Some of those people that have responded don't even have children. They never have even delivered a child to the bus. So
that's also a concern. So again, it's how much information we can get out of the way we go about it versus who's going to be there.
Face-to-face communication is better than survey methods.
I will definitely, based on this morning's conversation about engaging with the young enterprise area, engaging with the community down there, these people will likely all turn up for that meeting, and we'll use that as a face-to-face.
That would be good.
Just through the mayor, I think that resolution is good, and I think that as soon as that construction is underway or over, I think that's the time to go back and talk to all those people, just understanding now that they can't go there while the construction's taking place.
I still go back to them.
You've got to talk to them and find out where they go after when you see what's there.
That's what we're going to resolve, but in this one, we're missing the construction, temporary relocation of the existing school bus and the other school bus route for safety reasons during
I think you need to say that it's
During construction.
of the Capricorn, Birmingham Road and Capricorn Highway intersection, and then, or to Bellinias Road.
So is this, because this will have to be communicated to the public.
Yes, I think this needs a face-to-face communication like tomorrow, because this is a resolution today.
So that they understand what's coming.
It's a temporary one at the moment because it has to happen regardless.
And I think there's anything about community consultation. No, the word's not there. Maybe further consultation in the future.
And further consultation with the further. I'm having flashbacks of our
Easy, councillors, do you want a second one? Because at this stage, we're not making a decision about the permanent location.
No, that's
No,
right.
and
I
I think part of that resolution, it should be that we would further continue conversations with the community
Yeah, we're happy to
around.
add
We'll
that.
continue further discussion.
Two bus
In relation to the permanent relocations.
Yeah.
Permanent.
And, I'm happy to, as I said, now that I've got these people listed again, the lead person, as I said, in this case, they have submitted their response, so it's not that they didn't get a chance.
Yes, but just communicate this to them.
I will send
Yes,
this back.
don't just let this go out publicly and.
I will send this to these people on this email, or distribute it via the sender. The crux of it is that, yeah, we'll keep on chatting to them and see where it ends up, but it's unfortunate that we've got the bus company and Translink who seem to think every second of their schedule is critical, which to me is a strange one, but I think the likelihood of them ever getting caught on the southern side of the railway line is very, very unlikely.
Well, it's not the bus company, the parents will be stuck there, so someone's going to.
Yeah, somebody's going to get stuck somewhere along the way. So to me, the argument they're using to say that the risk of getting caught on the southern side of the railway line with a train is so remote.
They're thinking of all these mines
Like
going
pointed out,
on.
it's already happening at present because parents can.
On the west.
When they see the construction, it might be practical if it is on the other side of the road.
Well, that's right.
So at least have to wait. So.
I think if we wait and see where the construction ends up, there may be room for it to be.
Someone have that? Councillor McIndoe is suspect.
It is alive.
Thank you, Councillor McIndoe. Second by Councillor Godwin-Smith. That's a good resolution there. All right, all in favour? Against? Thank you. Right, that gets us down to our 83, which is our acting CEO report for the day. The first one is about show dates for 2018. 19. Good test.
Might win some more prizes.
Councillors, this is through you, Mr. Mayor, this is essentially a mechanical resolution seeking to put in place the pre-existing arrangements in relation to the public holidays associated with the shows for the region.
Moved by Councillor Nixon, second by Councillor Sypher. Oh, you all in favour? Thank you.
Well done, members.
Yeah, it's just fast as one.
Great work.
Well, well.
Mr. Mayor, just in regards to that, what Comet has its own show day now? I see it's tied in.
Their show date has traditionally been on the weekend, which is a
Would be a
Saturday.
Saturday or a
So
Saturday.
I didn't employ it simply because
It won't be public holiday.
Saturday is my public holiday.
We sure don't need it included in the Emerald and
No, it
Ken
won't be,
Fields group.
because it'll be, they all won't have
They'll
it.
still get a show day.
Yeah, they get a show
A
holiday.
public holiday.
They get the Emerald show holiday, don't
So
they?
this is the public
Yeah.
holiday.
Yeah, they've got Emerald Comet and Gem.
So the teachers don't
And their
turn up to
shows on
teach.
weekend.
Yeah. So they make public holiday.
All right,
Just leave it there.
Queensland Water Annual Report.
You do know there's only 11 out of the 13 communities listed there. That's fine, isn't it?
Yeah, beg
Which
pardon?
one?
Sorry, didn't hear it.
Oh, you're just grieving Jim Fields, no?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Benia gets the Mara.
Yep.
Who are real show holidays. It's not that they don't get it.
They all get a holiday. Jeringa goes to Rookie, don't they, Charles?
Yes, Queensland Water Annual Forum.
Councillors, this report comes before you seeking nomination for attendance at this annual forum. The recommendations there provided by the CEO to request Councillor Brendel Coleman himself attend that forum as has been past practice. Happy to take any questions.
Well, anything else councillors want to go? All right. Councillor Cyphers moved, is that correct?
Yeah.
Second by Councillor Nixon. All in favour? Yes, thank you. Speed of light. The page 91, which is the Banana Shire Industry Summit.
It's really good summit. I've been to a couple of them, and they're very successful. They have some good speakers, and yeah, they're in notes. And it's really worthwhile.
You've got a list of speakers there on page 94. So anyone, councillors like to attend?
Report indicates Brendel Coleman McIndoe, sorry, Councillor.
For that one, yeah.
I'll withdraw. No, with great respect to the name of the council, I'm sure that we can handle a couple of registrations.
Mr. Mayor, just on the, it's on the 16th of October, isn't it?
Yes.
It's got here in the diary inspection of Santos sites.
Oh, right. And I did that as well.
So,
Sorry.
That was, the Santos site came up after the report was written, so,
yeah, so on
that basis, I'm attending.
If you want to go somewhere that day, that's right.
So who's happy to go to Villa?
So who's going?
Councillor Brendel Coleman's nominated to go.
No, I said I'm unavailable.
All right, well, Councillor Brendel Coleman's going, is someone happy to move that?
Who's this one for?
This is for Bill Villa.
I'll go with Charlie.
Okay, then Councillor Cyphers, Councillor Brendel Coleman for the Banana Shire Industry Summit.
If I go, I just pay my own way, depends.
I'll just have to withdraw my thing from it.
Well, but is it?
Sorry?
So hasn't McIndoe expressed an interest?
Yeah, no, it's true.
You just unexpressed.
Unexpressed.
Really expression.
Yeah, just expressed. All
And the
right,
other thing is, at the same time, people might like to keep in mind is the National Economic Development Conference, which Rockhampton Regional Council is hosting. So that is 16, I've actually got it from 16th to the 19th, but I'm not sure of the dates.
well, I'm sure this one will be transferable if there were some people that went to another one. So if we nominate at this stage, Councillor Brendel Coleman and Councillor Cyphers, everybody do that? Yeah. Okay, someone move it? Moved by Councillor Nixon, second Councillor Daniels. All in favour? Yes, thank you. In the Australian Local Government Association National Local Roads and Transport Congress, this is the one we talked about last meeting that we just need a bit more detail on. So as you can see, there still is only a very preliminary program there, but certainly indicate Councillor Rolfe and Councillor Rolfe, I said, oh sorry, Mayor, Councillor Rolfe and councillors for the CEO to attend that meeting. Councillor Nixon, you indicated that you need to go to that? Yep.
I did.
All right, so anyone else? Good. All right, so that'll be, there's a provision there for the Mayor, Councillor Rolfe, Councillor Nixon and the CEO. Someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Gordon Smith, seconded. Second, Councillor Cyphers, just for probity. All in favour? Against, thank you. We've run out of stuff, haven't we? Right, general business, councillors. TV.
Just while it's hot on us, the reason I put my hand up before, but I just want to go back to that bus stuff. What communication and what thoughts have we put in? If it's so that we're going to have so much traffic interaction, what's happening at Bottle Tree pickup as well? Because it's a pretty poor pickup.
The one in front of...
the one this side of there, you know, and
It will-
and the other ones along that road aren't that much better. Well, in fact, they're pretty ordinary. So if we're going to consultation on one, I think those west of Yemma, the majority of the traffic is coming from, in those peak periods, we need to be identifiable as that as well. Just a thought.
Yeah, no, and you'll be going to lots of them.
And just putting it out there, Councillor McIndoe, that if you're going to talk about bus stops on highways, consider bus stops on the Dawson Highway that are actually on the Dawson Highway between Rolleston and Springshaw that's actually using the main roads set down and weighing whatever they do, pad as their bus stop. So I think we've got to be careful.
Just councillor, just to be cautious as well, there are current from TAG on the traffic advisory group meeting. There's already conversations about quite a few of these stops. I think Olive
Yeah.
was one that was supposed to be addressed by DTMR, which they haven't. And just to qualify here, this design as for Yamla has been, or we're waiting for Main Roads approval, will be approved with, actually this is something to consider without Main Roads, with consent of the bus stop going back in, because the submission we did to them excluded the existing stop where it is. So we'll have to go through a lot of planning with them to get this reinstated there. That's something I just thought of now. Because they're approving it without the bus stop there. That's basically they would lead to the location on the southern side, but we'll have to, that's another battle, but I'll deal with that.
So in there, just a bit further on that is that buses are actually finding that, school buses are actually finding that they're going to have, they're turning into roads and getting council or whoever to put a turnaround within the, off the highway.
That's why Bohemians is a good solution, because it's on our road and not on the highway. And for that matter, the one on the southern side of Honeydew Road is similarly, it's on the highway. So DTMR is not very willing to participate in upgrading Olive Vale and all these properties and other ones. And it will be on them to do it, not us.
Yeah, we are aware of it, Councillor McIndoe. Yeah. All right, other general business? Yes.
Firstly, I want to thank Council for the opportunity to go to the Future City Smart Communities Summit 2018 in Cairns just recently. I really urge councillors to try and have a look at some of the reports or some of the presentations that were given at that conference. I think it was an amazing eye-opener and in regards to the future, and a very close future in regards to the digital age really blowing myself away in regards to where it's going to and what's happening. But the whole process, I think now, of where we're going to go when 5G gets here, what's happening already with I think the smart digital age. All of the presenters agreed, I think, that driverless vehicles, both trucks and cars, are nothing of the future. They're here now. It's what council should be looking to plan for and be certainly aware of. There were a number of presentations about finance and the way in which I think through the world and through blockchain and other devices such as blockchain, I think the financial industry itself is being secured to a stage where it's probably will have greater trust in banks and other institutions who at the moment probably losing trust. So where at the moment we might all say we might not always trust the internet and other digital processes, What was certainly coming through there is that industries like the diamond industry and others who have more significant, I suppose, areas of concern in regards to duplication, maintaining registers, and getting the identification dead right, where there's more, I think, tax on that industry than most others. They have now developed their own system through blockchain about being able to have a secure system of registering diamonds. I think that, to me, it just meant that, just means that I think the next 5 years are really going to be exciting. We're going to be certainly tipped on our heads. This whole new digital age is here now. It's not something that's away in the distance. So there are some great opportunities there for local government, and I know we've got an application in, Kirsten, at the moment for some money about doing some smart stuff here.
Yes, so we have some money in for the innovation fund, so we're submitting 4 projects from the planning and environment team to tap into that funding opportunity. So the submissions close of business Friday this week, so the team's got them finished on Wednesday. We'll have them finished on Wednesday for me to review.
Were you referring to the Smart Cities and Communities grant?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry,
Which has been, the application is closed.
It's closed.
And it's around activating our public spaces.
So I just think that, what I think we learned from this particular conference is probably that we've got to go probably 2 steps further and start to embrace a few things, a few more things that are certainly, as I said, going to revolutionise the way in which we can all do business, and the way in which we'll continue to engage communities and can engage communities in the future. I mean, there was a young woman presenter from Melbourne who had this, that is already using people's location, which is now available through these things, or the phone systems know where you are, and then being able to engage almost instantaneously with those people with a question or with a community, what's your opinion right now, but able to do that because of this opportunity as Google and others are offering. So I just think the way in which we can engage with people, the way in which we can notify people, the way in which we can work with community in a whole new modern way is certainly here. And there are a number of those speakers, I think, that, and maybe their presentations, we should seek and go through those with some people.
Yeah, I went, you'd go through the blockchain one. There's 1, 2, not all, 3. There's about 5 pages with 3 words on each. Doesn't mean a lot.
We need more than that. But it really is a what. I thought it was a what eye opener. I don't know if the other councillors are there, but I just think there's something we've really. It's just on away from it.
Probably send an email out.
Marnie put them on document tab when they come through.
I think, Kirsten, you're going to give a presentation, aren't you?
Yes, so I was going to provide an update to the strategy today, but Michelle's request was that it comes before General Council, so an overview of the conference and the key learnings from that. So we do it in a presentation style as opposed to just a report with key learnings, because it is a smart cities forum. So try and do it a little bit differently to just another report.
One of the things that probably jumped out to me, in addition to the things Paul spoke about, was how important it is to get our community planning right in the future. And then one of the things they talk about now is that loneliness is a bigger killer than smoking. So that takes on board, things like suicide attributed to loneliness. So that's where our public spaces and our community spaces become really important tools to bring people together, and how we design those, and how we can get people to interact and become more engaged with other people. So there was a lot to it. Every presentation was 100% engaging. I've never been to a conference where you've actually hung off every word that everyone is saying in the room. It was absolutely fantastic. I've got pages of notes, and I'm sure that Megan and Paul have as well. And I, Kirsten, was typing furiously. So I think between us all, if you're doing a presentation, we'll be able to bring something together that hits a lot of the high points. But it was a really, really fabulous conference. And as Paul was saying, in the next 3 to 5 years, these things will be upon us. So, but there were a lot of things that really stood out that were very, very relevant to our regional and rural communities.
They're on money.
Yes.
It's my new couple.
I just think it's,
There's only a few words in there.
No, the ones that were available.
Yeah, but in comparison to the whole conference.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't sign the waiver to release their slides, which is a shame because there was some great content there.
I've taken a lot of photos.
Yeah, I did too.
Councillors, just an issue to consider is we all, most of us attended that little crash course in smart cities down at Mackendale. On a personal, professional level, I did flag the fact that I thought this is like trying to make it all happen with very little foresight. Getting back to the smart city idea, though, I do want to flag the fact that we did bring it into Blue Sky very late in the piece by request, and just reality, if we are as a council serious, and I'm personally also excited about the opportunities it just leaves me or offers me in the infrastructure space. If we are serious about it, we may or should consider, and this is just putting it out there, where it sits in our Blue Sky priorities, because currently it doesn't sit in the top 8, it's well down. I don't
We
even
didn't know what it was.
Yeah, so
it's really
if
there.
after these conversations, it's an opportunity, I believe council should not let go if we collectively are passionate enough to move forward into that space and get our whole of council position and engage with the community. We should make that a priority and reconsider where it sits in our top 8 priorities. I'm just suggesting that. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, it's the board's decision. But if there's a passion for it and a desire to move into that space faster than we're going now and not do it piecemeal, then this is the opportunity. So look forward to that presentation. And if that can give context to where council wants to go, it would be a great thing. But consider it that it's not currently, I don't even think it's funded in that.
No.
So there's a need to consider how we want to tackle this animal.
I just say though, I mean, because there just wasn't one speaker you could bring here that would do justice to what we've seen.
There's a diversity of themes really, and I think having an awareness about what those things are is going to be great to be able to share those with you.
So things like, I just said, the way you can develop your IT opportunities, but then also utilise them where I suppose I was saying operators in maintenance areas will be able to put a pair of glasses on where the screen will be inside the screen, and they'll be able to see the full maintenance manual or full maintenance of what's on here. There'll be someone over this eye that will be seeing what they're seeing, but also telling them how to fix it if there's another issue. That will be all recorded in case something goes wrong with the machine or whatever it is. And the way in which you can track, just sort of cattle, we use the ear tag and whatever else, which can be replaced or changed to alter. But if you do something with this whole new blockchain type arrangement, you can now track cows from this paddock to that paddock, and there's no way you can, then say this cattle is not being full.
We can do stuff. No one's going to be able to knock them off in the future.
Well, that's right, exactly. And but you can do this absolutely as secure, as I said, as what people that look after their diamonds do. So it just, as I said, banking. I just don't know where the future of banks are now, and when you can provide these other areas of financial transactions where you can trace everything, and the blockchain sees if there's any interventions, all that's recorded, and you can track it totally. So as I said, what's on the net now is not by any means, I think, a place of trust. It's a little bit like our banks, it might not be a place of trust. But you know, in some churches and others. But anyway, but you know, so I think that all of those challenges that are happening now in our community about those things we've trusted and utilised, and they've been the old sandstone deliverers of a whole heap of things, are gone. You know, the disruptors and those people that spoke about disruption, and we've only seen a few, whether it be Uber or a few others, but the big disruptors are coming. It's exciting.
And even autonomous vehicles, you know, I get excited about the thought that we could have autonomous public transport in the Central Highlands that could pick up people like the elderly or socially disadvantaged people on demand. So you wouldn't even have to pay a driver. You just have these autonomous buses just picking people up on demand. It would solve a whole heap of issues that we've identified around community transport. But it's coming, so we might as well identify what the opportunities might be and understand it a bit more and just embrace it as it comes.
And for communities that are just going off that one, ethical questions that need to be resolved by community and others about if a driverless vehicle was going down the road and it was going to smash into something, you know, it's then got to make a decision whether kill the driver or kill two other people and swerve and take out, you know, mum and a cream or whatever else. But I'll save the driver and the people in the passenger seat. So all of a sudden machines are going to have those sorts of decisions.
It's probably not the best things there.
Well, I mean, they're the tough ethical questions. And then there's others about, you know, like someone mentioned about a mother has a baby that won't go to sleep, but does go to sleep in the car. Should mum be able to go out with the kid in the driverless car and tell the car to go on a 3-hour drive until they there's a whole heap of ethical questions in there that we as a community haven't got our heads around. And until we are exposed to where these things are going to take us and what the future is, you know, I mean, if it all comes on us, as I said, in a big wave, you know, it's very, very difficult to understand if a community get their heads around it all. And I just think we haven't got much time. It's just, and I like the cars that the hobble ones where they go about 300 km an hour, and they're driverless, and they're already operating in Europe, so they're very expensive.
Watching a few. Okay, like,
no, they're really happening. They're happening. These people are selling them. So you know they're driverless, and that's it. They go about 300 km an hour, and they just and it's great for Gerard's roads. So they don't put a wheel on the road. So it's all pretty. As I said, it's all.
Oh, I'll have to go to the next conference. I think
that was one of the best conferences I've ever been to.
Yeah, I would have to say the same.
Well, we'll have to get all of us going to. I'd have to get the next one here in Emerald. Yeah. Come in their driverless cars.
Be scared, Steph.
Can Gerard?
That's if they can find us, they'll probably end up somewhere in the paddock.
Well,
What a driverless car, but we don't have the navigation, the GPS to do it.
When it crashes, we haven't got the connectivity to report.
Well, the federal guy said that the federal Department of Transport and the guy, he was also, I think he was on the, to work out, as I said, the things like, you know, all of the protocols that work for the operation of things like driverless cars, etc. He just said Google's new map thing comes out now and it's going to reduce for most of Australia, particularly in urban areas, it's the variances or the distances that they're out now from up to half a metre down to centimetres. So, and that's happening right now. They said they'll be in by August, September or something. So that allows the driverless vehicle stuff to happen right now. Scary. You know, that's all.
Anyway.
Well, so the second one, Mr. Mayor, I have was in regards to an email I've become aware of, which was addressed to the Coordinator General in October 2017, signed by a number of councils but us. Its main trust, and I want to table this as for a minute, its main trust starts off in regards to the Strong and Sustainable Resource Communities Act and adherence to that by coal companies. I represent this council and other councils on a group called the Resource Communities Advisory Group of the Local Government Association, Queensland. We've been very much, last year, I think I suppose the place where local government, its issues, its ambitions and its future in regards to sustainable mining communities, resource communities, were represented and assisted in the support of the development of that Act. We haven't met for 12 months, but I was surprised to see a letter that went in regards to an issue, mainly about Adani, but signed by a majority of councils around this area and some others, supporting this letter, but us not. And I'm seeking council support to write what I think is a very embarrassing situation where our council is on a piece of paper that's in the Premier's office, the Minister for Mines office, Coordinator General's office, and we're excluded from the signature page, and the only council that is excluded from the signature page, but referred to in the email directly as a community that could very much benefit from Adani or from any other mining activity in the region. Last council meeting we had, the Deputy Mayor raised the issue of improving our town planning opportunities in our small regional communities to benefit and gain from some of the mining activity that's happening here now. And I see that, some conflict that I've got, and that is whether I should remain on this Resource Communities Advisory Group. Does this council support fly in, fly out, or does it not support fly in, fly out? Do we support the Sustainability Act, which is now in place, and it only has 2 years before it will be reviewed, where this Act itself was brought in play to better assist councils such as ours and others to engage with mining companies, both at a preliminary stage, EIS stage, and then through the development and mining stage. So I'm a bit perplexed in that some of the councils that are on the Resource Communities Advisory Group, mainly mayors and there's a couple of councillors, but those mayors are a bit perplexed about our position also, I think, and how it rates in between both coal and gas and other resource activities. So I see two options here. One is that council resolves strongly that it supports the Sustainable Resource Communities Act, and supports its intentions and actively engages with it. Secondly, I will resign from the LGAQ committee, and we will remain as the missing piece for people to throw around that not all councils maybe are united under this Act. I think we're in a bad position. Certainly people have said to me there is a weakness now in local government stance if some councils, one council or another council is not willing to put a stamp or put its name forward as a supporter of the Sustainable Resource Communities Act and things that it stands for. So I'd like to the direction of my fellow councillors about what I do. Quite happy to go whichever way you want. I'll table this, Mr. CEO, for a minute. This is the letter that I'm referred to, which has, as I said, got a page on the back for those who are on the camera, which has a number of councillors signatories and not others.
Councillor John, how did you source a copy of the letter?
Well, it was referred to me that when I haven't had and a Resource Community Advisory Committee meeting since last year. And the first meeting was about 3 weeks ago. And at that meeting, I was quietly asked in the corridors by our mayor, the mayor is from a gas area, what was our position? And I said, why? And they explained it. I then followed up with the author of the letter and was told the story from the author of the letter, who's a mayor in the region, and was given a story that our council refused to sign.
I might refer to the mayor because I haven't seen a copy of the letter, and I don't know that anyone on our council's seen a copy of the letter, and maybe he might explain have a position in relation to the absence of a signature on the letter.
Well, I think quite frankly, I mean, the letter that's tabled is obviously addressed to the Coordinator General. So obviously it was a proposal by ISAC's council to obviously address an issue that had to do with a decision that had been made for announcement regarding, an announcement regarding the allocation of council in Rockhampton as a preferred employers, and then effectively nominating the postcards that actually went with that agreement. So the approach by me, and that's nothing to do with this letter by the way, the approach to me was made by Councillor Ian Baker, who was going to, I guess you'd say, supervise or was in control of, I suppose, coordinating this response. And the conversation was about, and you'll see that they were signed by Mayor, so it was actually an opportunity for her to canvass me, certainly to support that application, which was in fact, as you can see, a breach of Section 8, and it's referred to in that letter of the Strong Sustainable Resource Communities Act. So all it needed to take to actually have this addressed was an application from any council, and particularly ISAC council, where fundamentally, I suppose you'd say, the construction of the Carmichael mine is located, the fact that workers from Rockhampton Council have been given that priority. All it needed to do was to, I guess you'd say, have someone respond to that, the Coordinator General say, you're in breach of Section 8, and that would have been resolved. But the approach to me, in the context I was approached, was that Councillor Baker was seeking other, I guess you'd say, political support for this, and I didn't provide that on the basis that, and it's not because I don't support the Strong Sustainable Resources Communities Act. Nothing we do here, nothing I do here, would show me my support to be otherwise. So quite frankly, the reality was, my belief was, you can achieve that. You can do that by talking to the Coordinator General, which they did. And can I say, I suspect it wasn't provided with this back page with an unsigned council. They wouldn't have done that because obviously our logo's not even on there. So in that respect, reality would be, I'd hardly think another council who didn't have the support, whether it was believed or the context or otherwise, they would have certainly sent a document like this to the Coordinator General or any department with an unsigned part of this, as if for some reason, shape or form, there wasn't agreement. I think this particular sheet was the proposal sheet, which I didn't agree to. So the reality is this, I mean, if the pretext here is for some reason we're not supporting the Strong Sustainable Resource Community Act, I don't think anything in this letter says that. I don't think anything in my action says that I don't. And quite frankly, I find it an awful predication of tabling this letter that in some way, shape or form this council needs to either show its support again or support Councillor Bell's resignation from that committee. So I suppose what I would say to you is going forward, Councillor Bell, you know my position on the Strong Sustainable Resource Communities Act, my activities, the work we do here, anything we do here, certainly around supporting the resource sector and making sure that our communities get the best benefit from that, would never ever bring my integrity into question And quite frankly, I find this pretty ordinary, this whole process. So the reality is, if you want to resign from that committee on that belief, then you go ahead and resign.
Well,
but don't do it on the basis that you compromise this council into believing that for some reason, because I didn't sign this piece of paper, that this somehow doesn't show our support.
So can I just
Is
ask?
that piece of paper, exactly the way you see it, it's now in the Premier's office, it's in the Minister for Mines office.
Well, I certainly don't know that,
and
certainly not with my authorisation, what I have to.
And
so this is a piece of documentation that's floating around. And quite frankly, I have to question why any other council would be sending a piece of this paper around without our signature on it.
And I believe that the excuse given by yourself to the people who were putting that together was that your council had refused to sign.
And I categorically deny that's what I said. I said to them exactly what I just said to you.
That's what they believe.
Well, I don't think so. I think they understood, and on several occasions that I've spoken to them since, and I wouldn't think there's any reason why that wouldn't be the case, that I've actually confirmed the fact that this was a resolution that, quite frankly, in a very, 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 very diplomatic, a local government diplomatic sort of hailstorm, was about a certain number of mayors who were, quite frankly, and there's been a lot of dissent about some of the activities around the Carmichael project and how some of the local government in Queensland has acted around it, and you know those councils. And the reality was, it wasn't appropriate, in my view, that you keep perpetuating the fact that there was obviously competing interests for the interest of Adani in certainly Isaacs Regional Council, and certainly from Townsville and certainly from Rockhampton, that this was about obviously making sure that the postcodes on that letter were changed, and if it contravened Section 8, then why wasn't that just a matter of course? It didn't need to be political, it didn't need to have signatures all over it, and quite frankly, that's why I made that call. So it had nothing to do with my support, nothing to do with my support for Councillor Ann Baker, or any of those mayors listed on here.
All of those mayors.
All of those mayors, any of them. So in fact, I actually think I showed a little bit of political, I suppose you'd say, sensibility that sort of said, look, fix it up. It doesn't have to be a whole signature of mayors to make this work.
So all those other mayors.
Well, look, I don't care what the others did. I don't care what they did. I don't care what they did. I'm telling you exactly what I did. So that you're not under any illusion, that somehow this is a reflection on my views about the strong sustainable resource communities act.
Wasn't it?
No, they can do what they like, as can I, and that was my decision, and that was, I'm telling you right now, what the basis of that decision was. Now, if you don't like that decision, that's fine, but I don't think it's a very good practice and a show of solidarity that you come into this place and make your resignation
This is
from
another
this
captain's call
committee
for
about
you, Mr
somehow
Mayor, which is a very bad captain's call.
Well, if that's your decision, that's fine, but don't make that the reason for you to resign.
I'm going to resign and your name will be mentioned. And this council's position in regards to sustainability and sustainable communities, fly-in, fly-out entities will also be questioned.
Well, I think
you put it in question.
I think
not me.
I think our council and its reputation.
I did not put it in question, you put it in question.
Well, I'm prepared to back our council. But if you want to resign from your committee, you resign, mate, but don't make it about this council.
You have put our council and its whole belief, the whole belief in our community's got enough.
In your opinion.
In question.
In your opinion.
In question. Our own community is mentioned in that letter.
Sorry, Councillor Dawes.
Mr Mayor, I think we could probably go around and around in circles here. I guess the level of discomfort I have is this is quite a contentious project, the Carmichael project, and I guess in hindsight, this is probably something that would have benefited coming before the council to back your position or not back your position one way or another. I think that's an awkward position that we're in at the moment, where you've made a decision and unfortunately the letter's gone, and I don't know what the letter looks like, but I don't know how our council's been viewed in other state departments. I don't know, as I said, as you rightly point out, this may or may not be the letter that is actually sitting in the office down there, but it is an awkward position I think we find ourselves in, because I don't think there's anyone on this council that doesn't back the Strong and Sustainable Resource Communities Act of 2017, but how do we now articulate that or reinforce that if there is a mixed message out there? And I mean, I for one would not like to see Councillor Bell resign from that community. He for one fought very hard and led a conversation around this very act. And I think our council has backed that 100% all the way. And I think,
Exactly.
yeah, so.
It's what I'm saying, and my position hasn't changed. And I don't believe my signature on that, and I've told you the context, and quite frankly, that's the only context you can take you, because I was the person that was spoken to, and I actually had the negotiation, the discussion. And I don't believe, as I said, I don't believe that was the correspondence that needed to go. And that's my call. So if you think your integrity has been compromised, that's a decision you'll have to make. I certainly do not.
Our council and our community's integrity.
I don't believe that for one moment.
Let's go around the line. Yeah.
Do we know, Councillor Bell, that this was actually taken, the signing of this letter, was it taken to other council, like, did mayors take this decision to other councils?
A number of them did.
For a decision?
And there's no politics in it. When you have a look at the mayors, they're a real mixed bag. There's no politics in there. The only politics in there is politics of community. People caring about communities, wanting to, I think, absolutely have some sort of statement to reinforce people's support for the act.
I think a specific question was asked of Councillor Bell was actually how many mayors did take this to their.
I don't know.
No, that's right.
And I'm not suggesting for one moment that's justifiable or otherwise. What I'm saying in the context of the discussion I had, the part that I object to here is the fact that my integrity has been brought into question here because my support is there and it has never been any different. So to suggest that is just completely and utterly wrong. And to do with that, I provided you the same explanation I provided you this morning. That was my view, and it's the same view I hold now. And I suspect that I can hold up the activities of this council, the Development Corporation, and all the things we do, the funding we receive. Quite frankly, we've always done that in the best of integrity, Paul.
What I don't understand is you've just said you support it. This council has strongly supported it. Why wouldn't you sign that to support our neighbour?
No, because that wasn't what was asked for, to be quite respectful. That wasn't what was asked for. What was asked for here was the support under Section 8 that the announcement that was made by Barney for Townsville and Rockhampton specifically mentioned postcodes. And look, Paul, you don't like this, but that's what my view of what I read. And that was what the view was that those postcards were named, and Councillor Baker rang me and quite rightly said, this contravenes the Act. And I said, well, you can write, obviously she was going to write and send it. And then in a very short time frame, we were then invited to add our names to it. And I took the view that, look, this was about, quite frankly, the integrity of the actual Act and its veracity. If it was right and that was proven, well, then all it needed was one council to write to the
But I can't understand why you wouldn't put your name to it.
Because quite frankly, as you can see from there, can you see the names that are missing there? There was a lot of councillors and mayors that went with the Adani, with the Premier and we all have interest. And quite frankly, I just thought by all of those people being on that list, all that did was put some mayors against the interests of other mayors, and I didn't think that was a good.
But you do believe in it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying here. It still is. It's still served in this letter. It's still served in this letter without having to sign it and actually have.
So you believe in stuff, but you won't put your name to stuff.
Oh, no, that's not the case at all. There didn't need to be. There didn't need to be.
But there was no harm in doing it.
Well, potentially there is, because what if other mayors had said, well, you're not prepared to support the fact that we have an economic development opportunity for our councils in there, and we would be seen to be going against it. And I didn't think that was a very good look. So, I think what this is about, this was about, at the time, was a lot of, Councillor Bell saying there's not a lot of politics in it, there was heaps of politics in it. And I just didn't think at the time it was an appropriate thing to do.
Well, I would like to see Councillor Bell resign from the committee.
Glenn McLaughlin. I'm just looking through the names of those people who have signed. I just don't know Joe. It's all about politics and charter.
So, look, if council want to resolve something, I mean.
So, where do we go from here?
Well, I'm going on with the LGAQ stuff. And I'll have to make sure it's all taken.
So, I mean, do we, now that you've seen the letter, should we discuss the letter or?
Well, this is a letter addressed to the Coordinator General to get a course of action done, whether we like it or not, on the 28th of October last year.
The letter's gone.
I think the issue is that
There's a
there's a feeling in council that we should have supported it. I think that's.
Well, I don't know, I don't, what I said to you is exactly what I did, and I don't think that changes anything about that. And that doesn't, I don't think it's not about support. I think we showed our support. We showed the fact that we, and Councillor Baker knows my conversation with us, so I don't have to, I guess, ad nauseam keep repeating it. I know that what the conversation was, and I said exactly that. If that acted as veracity, that would be a matter of course. It would be changed. So I did not think by adding my signature any of that with 13 other mayors was going to make it, would parts of the Act be more enforceable if 13 mayors said they support it? I don't think so. If the Act worked, it works. It's exactly what it's there for. And without the politics, quite frankly. And I mean, at the time, you've got 8 councils competing for an interest in that particular thing. It was not a good look on the basis of the very strong established relationships we have with all those communities, plus the proponents and all those people. What would be the value of jumping in the middle of that? Not good.
The value would be that in the EIS process, Emerald, Charters Downs and Claremont were mentioned. Under the process that was taken by 2 other councils, those 3 communities have completely been disengaged. One of those is called Emerald. So I would have thought that even if you had to rewrite some of the words or work with the mayor about some of the words or do something, you would support Emerald. You haven't.
But Paul, that wasn't what that letter was about. I mean, we might beg to differ, but I just do not know.
Read it.
Well, that correspondence.
You were given that, and you had 4 or 5 conversations with the person who wrote the letter. You were given time. You were the last mayor to in the discussion, as my understanding is. You were given time to do things. And that was talk. Is there an issue that we can't have a mayor that will send us these sorts of things, email, ask for us out of session, advice, but we just do this arbitrary thing which is now left, a letter with a signature page with us as a blank.
Well, I don't for one moment suspect that was the correspondence that left for instance.
It is.
And quite frankly, I wouldn't have, I don't think I would have said it. So.
I question that too about whether it is what is the correspondence. I'd like to see somebody search through and find the email or the letter emailed that was to go to be signed by, well, it must be somewhere, and if it's not, did it come here?
Well,
that's what I'm asking.
The only thing I haven't said to you this afternoon, I don't think there was ever a letter sent to us requesting our council.
Well, see, this is, so what are we all sitting here worried about?
So I'm happy.
Because there was a discussion about it.
It was only a phone conversation.
Well, if it was a phone conversation, how the hell is Perry going to pay?
Because he said no, he wasn't going to sign it.
No.
That's why the letter wasn't sent.
The information given back to the people who were doing the letter was
Sorry, Mr. Mayor,
that this council was not going to sign.
If the mayor has said that he wasn't going to sign it, I would imagine that the letter that was sent would not have, as it hasn't got the logo on it, and it would not have Kerry Hayes, Mayor of Central Highlands.
So I'm happy with Jason to bring it back if there's a letter anywhere, but
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, could I move that we move on, please?
Yes. I don't know how you want to move on, but we can move on. It's just it's been tabled.
Yeah, I think we've had enough discussion.
Well, sorry, for process, Paul, should that be received?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so.
Receive and put in minutes, please.
Yes. Right.
So it's there for prosperity.
Probably just.
And my resignation, I'll be giving you that way for the minutes as well.
Well, I would like to think that.
I don't work in this framework, they go, it's a problem. Where there's no trust of our councils in other places when we're trying to defend a position.
Can't we find out about it first before you?
Well, that's the point I'm saying. That is exactly the point. This is a letter that was October 2017. The mayor acknowledges that there was there's a political flavour to the letter, to the parties that we were dealing with at the time. My personal view is that a decision of that should have been from this council. And I think in hindsight, and we've always got the benefit of looking back, we probably should have had a decision from this council to back you one way or another, and you will be in this position right now where we're trying to salvage our position in relation to this. We haven't got Councillor Bell in a position where he feels conflicted. So I think, again, there's a lesson here about consultation and communication around issues such as this and issues. Just let us in. Let's have a yarn about things like this when they come across your table.
Well, and inversely, if I have conversations with people, not all of it's going to be stuff we're going to share. It might be stuff that will just be a discussion around colleagues that pass between. And on this case, and on that basis, and the way it was, and I'm telling you about the context, I'm not going to take it from Councillor Gordon-Smith, but the reality was that was an informed decision I made. It was never about my support for an act. It was never not about support for my colleagues who, quite frankly, until you would have seen this letter today, I don't think anyone in this room doubts the relationship we have with anyone on this piece of paper. I just feel a little flummoxed because I don't want it to be the reason Paul wants to resign from that committee. So I acknowledge it. That's it. That's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah. We're moving on.
It was a procedural motion.
Yes. Yeah, okay. Move on. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Nixon. Any other general business?
No.
Oh, well, it's... All right, councillors, well, if there being no further business, meeting is now closed at 4:57 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Just when that goes on,